Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent podcast. We are back on this hot Tuesday. NBA Finals is complete. Fellas, how y'all doing?
Doing good.
I'm good, bro. You know, a little worse because the Celtics already won, but it's all right.
Now, the Lakers fan is hurting my heart, but Celtics won. Before we even get into that, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, follow, share, like, comment. The best sports podcast in New Jersey. We are trying to be here for a good time and a long time. You feel me? On today's episode, we're going to be touching on NBA Finals recap. What happened with Kyrie? Did they get the NBA Finals MVP right? What grade do we give J Kidd? NBA free agency, as y'all heard, if y'all haven't, is different this year with the new CBA. We can see deals as soon as today, this weekend. So we're going to talk about some of those. Caleb Williams. What does a successful rookie year look like for Caleb Williams? And that's the show. We end off with some games as usual. Fellas, starting off with this one. Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP. 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Did they get it right?
I think so. Yeah, I think they got it right. I don't think there was any world in which you could give it to anybody else, really. Maybe you had a case for a guy like Drew Holiday, maybe. But that's if Jaylen Brown didn't play well and Jason Tatum didn't play well. Obviously, Jaylen Brown was the guy they went to score points down the stretch of games. And if we're being honest, and I don't think that Jason Tatum really answered any questions about himself in this series. I think their questions are still going to be there. The narrative's still going to be there until he goes to an NBA Finals and plays well, because the standard that people hold him to is that of a superstar. It's not, that of a good player. So because of that, he's going to have to go to an NBA Finals and be the reason why his team wins an NBA championship definitively with certainty. Like, lead your team in every way possible and be the guy they have to go to down the stretch to get buckets to win games. And that wasn't the case in this series. No matter how you split it, no matter what you say, no matter how you feel about what I'm saying, that wasn't the case. So he's again, look, it's a compliment to him that people hold him to this high of a standard. It is. So, you shouldn't take it any kind of way. I know it must be tough but annoying, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you have millions of dollars, so just go out there and work on your game. You're a one-time champion. Go out there, work on your game, sharpen your skills, work on your shot selection, your shot chart. Get better shots more often, and you'll be a great player. You'll be an all-time great player. But until then, people are going to have those questions. So it is what it is with him. But Jaylen Brown answered it. Good for him. He's been that guy's shadow for a long time. He played great, and he deserves all the credit he's going to get as well. So especially when people questioning that contract he got last year, all the money they gave him. Clearly, it was worth it. He's a hell of a player, and he showed that. So, good for him. Good, and I don't want to go too far in Celtics praise because you know how it is, but he did a good job.
I agree too. I think Jaylen Brown deserved it. If you looked at the whole postseason run, he's kind of been consistent all the way through. It's not like with Tatum, he'll have a great game, and then all of a sudden, 6 for 22, where he's shooting. Not lights out, but he's shooting the lights out. So now people can't see in the building. That's what he's doing out there. So I appreciate Jaylen Brown for working on his game and really developing over the past few years, because this is a guy who's super talented, very athletic. And ever since they've been in the league, they've always compared the two and seen who's better than the other one. Well, during this playoff run, Jaylen Brown was the best player on the Celtics, and that's not really a debate. Tatum could be upset deep down, but you got to play better if you want to get the accolades and recognition that some of the best players get. Something like LeBron James or Dirk Nowitzki would get in their playoff run. So for Jaylen Brown, he earned that contract. Although in the offseason, people were saying $60 million for a number 2 guy is a lot of money. Let's see if this will last. Well, I think the only people that they need on this team really is him and Tatum. And then they figure it out. Brad Stevens is good enough to figure out moves to make and the pieces to put around these guys. And, the team that they built so far with shooting and defense, it's a good formula. As long as they're hitting their 3-point shots, this team could win a couple more rings down the stretch. I mean, granted, you hear Embiid not giving credit, but at the same time, your team's never healthy. So you can say the East was hurt. You're hurt every year. So it seems like a theme. So don't get upset about how things went in the playoffs when, you might just need more iron in your diet. That's it. Lay off the burgers and, you'll be all right.
I mean, people may have to accept the fact that Tatum's the number 2 guy on that team. I think that's another thing too, because it looks like it a lot of times. If in the big moments they go to the other guy, you're probably not number 1. And that, for Tatum, that seems to be the case more often than not, where they're going to Brown. So we may have to start changing that. I've already gotten there. The Celtics number 1 is Jaylen Brown. That's the reality of it.
Is Jaylen Brown a superstar?
It's a conversation.
You would say Tatum. I mean, by the numbers, he's a superstar. He's made first team All NBA over the past few years. They're recognizing him as one of the top 5 to 7 players in the NBA. So
I don't consider Tatum to be a superstar. Tatum's not a superstar in my opinion because he hasn't, taken a team and won a championship because of him mainly. I have a high bar for a superstar. I mean, that's just reality. And by the way, to be fair, you don't have to win a championship to be a superstar necessarily. So to be fair, I'd like to change that criteria a little bit. That's a little harsh, but because Embiid's a superstar. I mean, he is. There's no other way to put it. Giannis is a superstar. I think that these guys change the gravitational orbit of the court. When these guys step on the court, everything changes. I don't know that I feel that way with Tatum, though. I think Tatum can do that. It's just not consistent. It's the inconsistency for him. Like, it's not every night he steps on that floor. It's not like he's going to kill you one way or another. He's going to kill you. That's not the reality. But guys like LeBron, guys like Kobe, guys like Giannis, it kills you. Like it's tough when you're going downhill. It just is. Embiid, it's unstoppable at times. It just is. And most nights actually it's unstoppable. And that's the thing. The consistency of how often you're unstoppable determines whether or not you're a superstar. And for Jason Tatum, he's not nearly consistent enough in that regard, being unstoppable for me to say he's a superstar. That's my only thing. So based on that criteria, I wouldn't say Jaylen Brown is either. But he is a killer, though. To give him that, he is. He shows up when it matters.
Now, on the flip side, we talking about killers. Going into it, we had the conversation, the debates, most skilled backcourt. In the fourth quarter, close game, we want Tatum, Brown, or do we want Luka, Kyrie? And a lot of people was picking Luka, Kyrie. They said that they were more killers than the other two that was aforementioned. Kyrie, this series in Dallas, 28 points per game, 50% from the field, 41% from 3-point. But in Boston, 14 points per game, 34% from the field, and 17% from 3. What in the world happened to Kyrie Irving?
Boston felt like the 60s, I guess, for him, because it was definitely not comfortable. So that's all I'll say. I mean, looking at it, those splits are very different. And I thought he'd be ready for this. And, I mean, I can't put it all on him. Luka didn't really play his best in the championship series either. But, I mean, Kyrie, I was kind of expecting more of him. I mean, you knew you were going to need 2 elite performances a game from these guys to really keep pace with this Celtics team. I mean, if you look at it, Celtics, that starting 5 is talented enough to all be all-stars at some point. I mean, they've all, like Derek White was in the conversation, Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Tatum, even Porzingis when he was healthy. That's a guy that's a all-star level player. So on the flip side, the Mavericks only have Kyrie and they have Luka and a bunch of band of misfits because they made it work through the playoffs. You're getting a lot of production out of Derek Jones, a lot of production out of PJ Washington, but those are guys that their track record doesn't speak for them doing that on a consistent basis. So, I mean, it stinks that Kyrie didn't really play his best. I mean, he was missing a bunch of shots that I kind of expect him to hit. And even dribbling through the lane, he's getting stripped and all this stuff. So I'm like, something's off. Like it's not. I don't know if it's basketball related because then all of a sudden I see in Game 5 when he jumped in the stands. I'm sure somebody said something to him and they were saying he was pretty upset about it. I'm sure that's not the worst thing that was said to him in these 3 games in Boston in this finals. But it's nothing he can really do about it. Like, this is Boston. Everybody knows that this is how it gets. I mean, you saw after Game 1, they had a stuffed plushie of a basketball player for the Mavericks, black, and they were, chanting some stuff that most places you wouldn't, north of the Mason-Dixon line, you wouldn't think they would say stuff like that. But in Boston, it's a little different. That's why I don't go there. I don't bring my New York stuff down there because I'm trying to come back home afterwards. So.
Yeah, I think with Kyrie it was all mental. I think that's what happened. I think it was a mental thing, dealing with the fans. I don't think he has any regrets about leaving Boston at all. In fact, we all know he doesn't. I would really say that for him, it's just dealing with the fans and dealing with what they say. And, I think he cares a lot about people's opinions. I mean, for as much as he talks about, being enlightened and talks about his tribe and everything like that now, he cares a lot about people's opinions. He does. And that stuff matters to him. And that's okay. It's normal. I think when you have, however many 40,000 people in an arena yelling profanities at you, yelling, let's be honest, racist remarks at you. I'm not running from that. It's Boston, right? I think we all know that the things they were saying were definitely racially motivated as well. Being a black player who's disliked by that fan base, that franchise, that's tough, man. That's real tough going over there and playing over there as well. And look, Bron went through it before him. They hate Bron. They hate him, right? And Bron didn't leave him. He didn't burn him. They just hate that guy, right? And for more reasons than just the obvious. But it's just something these guys have to deal with. I think Kyrie has to get mentally stronger. It's tough. This is your third NBA Finals actually now in your career. So it wasn't the lights being too bright. We know what he does on a basketball court, and I think that's the sad thing is that affected him that way, right? And also, I would also say I don't think anyone. In fact, I think everyone can say. God, we're gonna get a lot of comments when you post whatever I say here. I don't think anyone can say that Luka got the same types of comments. Okay, Luka did not get the same types of comments out there. Nothing was racially motivated. It was regular trash talk, right? All right, you can call him whatever you want in the curse word area, all right, and it may get under his skin, but it's not the same. It's not the same. We all know what those guys were out there saying. We all know what those fans were out there saying. We've all heard it. NBA players have corroborated this. Utah's another bad place where Russell Westbrook specifically said he was called the N-word, I believe. It's just, or called a monkey, So this is just a part of it. Like, for real. I mean, playing in some of these areas, that's part of it. But Kyrie's got to be mentally stronger than that, man. I'm disappointed that he wasn't. Because I think if they'd won that game last night, we would be talking about a Game 7 for sure. And I think they had a chance to make it a series. They missed a golden opportunity, and there's no guarantee that Dallas will be back. There's no guarantee. The West is just that good. The Thunder could take a step forward next year. Who knows? The Lakers might make a resurgence, man. Like we don't know what's going to happen, and so it's really hard to just predict that they're going to be back because they were here this year. It's not necessarily sustainable. It's not a guarantee. Not in the Western Conference. So we'll see. And Denver will be back. And so will Minnesota. Minnesota will get better too. So, it's a bummer, but it was definitely all mental. It's just unfortunate.
Maybe Luka looks for greener pastures somewhere else.
I highly doubt he leaves this year or anytime soon.
Yeah, maybe at some point in the future though.
Maybe. You never know. I don't think
you're gonna really get too many guys to come play with you. Kyrie basically came because he had no other option. So
it's true. If Kyrie didn't tank his own market by being an idiot in Brooklyn, he wouldn't have been there. he never would have ended up in Dallas. So it is an incredible streak of luck. That's how it went down.
Now, regarding Kyrie, I heard a good point this morning, brought up by Stephen A. Funny enough,
Rare.
Yeah. What do y'all think about this? He said he feels it would have been different if Kyrie had a teammate like KG, a teammate like LeBron again, that would have been able to win. He didn't make this point, but I think this is a key factor. Specifically talking about LeBron. LeBron would have been able to shoulder a lot of that and a lot of that hate nonsense versus what you get with Luka, and obviously LeBron plays defense also, and then the KG aspect, having that type of leader, KG would have been right there on the forefront, like F y'all, suck my pinky toe. He would have been able to have like take that brunt of that, like nah, get your mind right. I got this. Do you think it would have been different if they had somebody that was either on LeBron's talent level or at least a vocal leader, kind of an enforcer like a KG, to help Kyrie get through those mental hurdles?
I think it would have been different. I think having a guy who's been there before, a veteran, would have helped them a lot. You know, they were young. That team is young. Kyrie is like the elder statesman of that team. You know, and when Kyrie's your vet, that's tough. That's tough, man. Because like at the end of the day, Kyrie's game is as pretty as it is, as great as it is. He can put up some stinkers. I've seen it. I saw it in Brooklyn. I saw him come up short in moments in the playoffs before. It's not like this is something where he's a lock and a guarantee to play great every night, regardless of what the fans are saying to him, or regardless of whether or not he's on the road at all. So, you know, I do think that it makes a difference having someone else there. I do think the mentality that he has, it matters more than anything else. I think, you know, Stephen A is making a decent point, but, you know, I think it's his mentality. When he was like F you to everybody and he was trying to play that villain role, he went to Boston and played pretty well sometimes. I mean, there were games where he went there and demolished them with the building packed. There's something to be said for the fact that Kyrie is on a different journey right now where he's trying to almost like, I don't know, clean up his image a little bit and apologize for some of the things he's done in the past. And look, credit to him for being more mature and everything. But, you know, Kobe was able to kind of tap into that mentality where he was, you know, the villain, and it worked for him. You know, he was able to tap in and out of that. It did. I mean, he would go places and he's killing people. He was a killer. So I think being able to tap in and out of that a little bit would have been helpful for him. He should have been able to weaponize that, you know, that villain mentality a little bit in that series. I think it would have helped him. I do think so. I do. Stepping on unlucky, like that was that energy you probably needed going in that building, just for the game. And then you go to the podium, you talk about your tribe and everything. But during the game, you tap into that mentality, and I promise you, it would have gone different. I do believe that. I think there's something to be said for, you know, Mr. You know, political Kyrie walking in the building is a little bit different. The energy was different, and I think it hurt. I think it hurt him in his performances. There's something. I think that's more of what I attribute that to than him not having a guy like LeBron. Obviously, having LeBron helps. I mean, it's LeBron. You know, Stephen A. and James were saying that.
Nah, I completely agree. I think it's tough. It was tough for Kyrie, being that you're trying to have a different mindset, a different approach to just life in general. And like you said, as Kobe said it best, he said, I had to dig into that dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie, from what we've seen so far this year, hasn't dug into that dark side. So then to try to just turn that on for the finals, like I'm gonna dig into that dark side. Maybe that wasn't able that he can, you know, pull from that. And that's what ended up happening. Because that's what you go down to history. Playing in Boston, all of the greats, you might have one bad game, but they end up figuring out that next game. Like, all right, I had a bad game. It's not going to be every single game of the series. Kobe, the time when he went against the Celtics, he had some stinkers in that series. But there's some other games where he's, I figured it out. I'm going to make an impact. So we'll see what happens with them. As you said, I don't know if they come back. Derrick Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, Maxi Kleber, they were some magicians because they had a lot of people fooled thinking that Derrick Jones Jr. suddenly could shoot. We saw that wasn't the case. PJ Washington, I give him like a C. in the finals. He did all right. He did have to guard Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum at different points, and Jason Kidd wanted to make him be Magic Johnson in the finals. Before we transition, J Kidd, what grade would you give J Kidd this finals and his adjustments and how he coached?
I think with the situation is tough because Luka was injured. So when this is why I didn't like Dallas, and this is why I've always called them frauds, because they weren't a great defensive team, even though this year they haven't historically been. And with Luka handling the ball so much and them being so Luka reliant, the minute he gets hurt, the minute he's not the same, you're in trouble. And Kyrie's we all know the best thing Kyrie does to score the basketball is not to be setting people up. So I don't know how much I can put at his feet for this one. I think he's a damn good coach in the NBA, and they'd be stupid to fire him. I'll tell you that. Obviously, if you're looking at just an individual performance, I attribute a lot of the things that went wrong to players being injured too. I think that played a big role. Luka is everything to that team. He's a superstar, right? Like he changes the gravity of the court when he steps on the court every night. He's gonna kill you. He played bad games and he was getting 26, 12, and like 8. These are bad games. You know what I'm saying? So, just back to my Jason Tatum point. He ain't doing that. But I would give him a C+. It wasn't great. There were some bad timeout calls, but it's not as bad as people might think it is, because I think with Luka being injured, it's just hard to win with that team, because he's everything. He's everything. Whether you love it or hate it, he's everything for that team.
I graded like a C. He's behind the 8 ball. Like you said, Luka's hurt. He doesn't really have that many guys on the bench that you can rely on to spell Kyrie or spell Luka for long periods of time. So it's like you can't really take them off the court for that long. And he's running with a bunch of like journeymen / young players in the league. So I think he got the most out of them. I would have liked them to have won maybe 2 games at least in this series, because I think, like you said, if they would have won last night, they could have made this a 7-game series, because it's a lot different in Dallas. They play a lot different at home than they do on the road. So, but it was always going to be an uphill battle against the Celtics. Like, this team was built to win chips for as long as they can keep this core together. And this Celtics team's miles ahead of where the Mavericks are. I mean, they run differently. They run better. So that's just the way it is.
Now, off season starting, as we mentioned earlier, free agency. We're going to play. Where will they sign? We are going to try to predict our best fits, or where we think these players will end up at free agency. We're going to list a couple of names, some of the bigger names that either opted out. They're all unrestricted free agents. We're not going to do the restricted free agent aspect because they can end up signing back. So we're just going to do who's actually an unrestricted free agent. Starting off first, who will Paul George play for?
I mean, you saw Embiid sweating him like a burger from Smash Burger at the finals. He was interested, and I don't think there's where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there's definitely some back channel talking going on between them, because I think Paul George is not going to get that money from the Clippers. Like, I think they've already made it pretty clear, we're not maxing you out. We already maxed out Kawhi, and it's not really working. So for us to do that for 2 guys who are, pretty injury prone would be kind of crazy. But the Sixers, on the flip side, you've got Embiid, who, I mean, normal year, he's an MVP every year. You've got Maxey, who really developed while Embiid was out. And then you add Paul George to that. I mean, swapping Paul George for Tobias Harris, that's like a gift from God. You're not going to get a donut in a final Game 6 in the playoffs from Paul George. But then again, you might. So it's an interesting slope that they got to go down. But I think best fit for him is, Philly. I'd hate it. I'd hate to see it. But if he goes to Philly, then they'll stay away from OG.
If he goes to Philly, they're going to win the East. I don't. I think that's how. I don't think Paul George has ever played with a player as great as Embiid, as dominant as Embiid. He's going to get a lot of open shots. It's going to be really hard to guard that team because you don't guard Embiid with one person. And all these bodies flood to the paint. It'll be a bunch of kickouts to Paul George, or wide open shots he's never had that open in his career. And so Embiid is dominant. Like his dominance in the way he tilts the gravity of the floor and makes defenses have to scrap traditional game plans is going to be really hard to deal with that team. That team could go to the finals. Like that's how, if they have a point guard over there, like a decent point guard, if they bring Lowry back or something, to someone who can get the job done and get him into offense, they're going to be really, really good. So that'd be the East's worst nightmare. Maybe people want to try to interfere there and make sure he goes to Orlando or something. Even though I think the Sixers is exactly where he ends up, they could win the East, man. They're going to be that good. I still think the Knicks should go after Paul George. But if he wants a ton of money, I can understand maybe why the Knicks wouldn't want to do that. Fine. But the Sixers can afford to pay him because with Embiid, you have a chance to make a run of this thing for real. As long as they both stay healthy, which is the only thing that can get in their way. If they're healthy for even 70% of the season, they're winning the East, man. They're winning the East.
If that does happen, we definitely will have a conversation then on the top big threes currently and all time, because PG, Embiid, and Maxey.
Oh my God, Maxey. Excuse me. They're winning the East. I didn't even think about Maxey. They're winning the East. Damn.
That would be scary, especially with Maxey's improvement this last year. And to Miles's point, with a Maxey, do we really need Paul George to drop 25 on that final game of the playoffs? That makes it easier for everybody. Embiid, and I think Embiid does stay healthy if that does happen, because Embiid we don't need to see Embiid drop 70. Mm-hmm. We don't need to see that at all. So I think that'd be nice. James Harden.
Who cares?
Honestly, I mean, maybe he'll go back to the Clippers. I feel like if Paul George is walking, they're going to feel the need to bring James back. But I don't know. At this point, yeah, like you said, who cares? Like, I don't really care where he goes. He's not winning a chip. Unless he joins forces with the Celtics. But he'd have to take a major pay cut to do that. And that'll never happen. And they don't have good strip clubs in Boston. So
I've heard the strip clubs aren't good in Boston.
I don't know. How would y'all feel if? I'm not gonna go there. How would you guys feel if he went to the Lakers and they also got Kuzma or something like that, and they kind of dump Rui and dump D'Lo, and that's kind of the new core moving forward. Harden, LeBron, AD, Kuzma. They get Kuzma somehow on a trade. I don't know.
Is this the big three? Because where's the bench going to be? Where's the money coming from? They still got to resign Bron.
Eventually, what the bench is. Like, I don't know. Like, they have dudes. They have young guys on the bench that play Christie and play the other guys. They have to. Scare money don't make money. It doesn't. Like, I hate this nonsense about keep the core intact. If you were winning, sure. If you were winning games, sure. Like that wasn't working. It wasn't working. It wasn't just Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham wasn't the only problem the Lakers had. All right, D'Lo was a problem too. All right, so I'm on board for James Harden. A move with James Harden getting them over there. That's just. But if you can get Kuzma, if you can get other supplementary pieces that are really good, Kuzma, it would be a great addition to that basketball team too. As well. So I don't know. I think the Lakers would be because if the Clippers don't want to pay him, if the Clippers decide, hey, we're not going to give you what you want. Harden's audacious. Harden wants money. Harden figures he deserves a max contract right now. And I'm not saying the Lakers will do that. I'm not saying the Lakers should do that. But once he comes down to reality, and those he loosens up those braids, then I think he can come. Maybe he can come to the Lakers and help out over there. I think he's a better player than D'Lo. I think he's a better player than D'Lo right now.
I think it would be a nice fit long as he comes at the right price. Long as he, that max contract stuff is not happening. He is better than D'Lo, I feel, at this point. And again, what the goal and the plan was, the Clippers, he was supposed to be the third or fourth option. I think people forget Kawhi got injured again. Paul George had a couple bad games. The Clippers then looked at James Harden like, can you turn the clock back? No, this is not why he was brought there. He was not brought there to do that at all. It was supposed to be this dream thing where it was Kawhi PG. They will handle the heavy load, and then you would have James Harden picking up the pieces wherever he needed to do. Maybe one good game of series. You come to LA, knock on wood, Bron's been pretty healthy, pretty solid. AD, let's say he repeats his year that he had last year where he played about 75 games, 70, 75 games. I think Harden fits perfectly in that role of what they wanted D'Lo to do. And you talk about you adding a Kuzma to that. Again, James Harden now becomes the fourth, fifth option. We just need you to put people in position. That's it. Throw alleys to AD, kick it over to Bron. That's it. So I think that would be a nice fit. I don't know if it happens, but that's a good option possibly. Klay Thompson, currently in the Bahamas. Where y'all see him going?
He should stay there.
He's going to Orlando.
Yeah, he's going to Orlando. I think everything you're seeing, like him following Paolo, him following other guys on the Magic, it's not for no reason. It's not so he can find out where the best open gyms are in Orlando. It's to, talk that free agency talk. And I think they're going to offer him money that is more in line with what he's willing to accept, even though he's not a max player anymore. And I mean, he's still got that one skill that you can't teach, and that's shooting. And he'll add that spacing aspect to Orlando that they need around Paolo and around Wagner or something. I'm sorry. But yeah, 3-year deal, a lot of money. I like it, especially for these young guys before you have to max them out. I mean, why not? This team was what, fifth in the East? Even though it was, you could say it was banged up, but this young Orlando team showed that they can win games. They can win games in the playoffs. And, if you add a few more pieces around some of those guys, who knows?
Yeah, if they had Klay this past series, I think they win that series. Paolo needed some help. Franz, he couldn't find his shot that entire series. And we already know what their guard situation is in regards of shooting. So,
yeah. They need the shooting. It's a perfect fit.
His ex-teammate at this point, obviously, Chris Paul.
I think LA. I think in LA, I mean, sure, it's over a decade later than you thought, but I think that's his best fit, honestly. You're not going to have to pay him that much. You know that he's a perfect point guard to run point around LeBron and AD and all that stuff. And with you not having to spend that money on him, you can fill out the roster with other pieces that fit around this core. So, yeah, I'd like to see him go to LA. And who knows, if JJ Redick believes he should start, then start him. But I think when him and Bron are on the court together, it's not going to be that hard. Like, they're both like brilliant basketball minds, and I think they'll figure it out. As long as Chris Paul stays healthy. He's another one who somebody must have a Chris Paul voodoo doll or something. Who's that referee that he doesn't like? On his off nights, he must be, doing something. But yeah, CP3 in LA, that'll make the Kobe fans happy that it finally happened.
Yeah, I mean, if you get him for cheap and then you get AD, I think any combination. Then you get Kuzma. Any combination with Kuzma for them would be interesting. I'm not disinterested in I know I'm getting off topic, in a Caruso and Levine package. I'm not disinterested in that. I would really sniff hard about that if I were the Lakers, and they'll just inquire and see what the price would be too. But yeah, I think CP makes sense there too. I think Harden's better, and I'd rather have Harden, but it may not be possible. Obviously Harden's better, but CP be a nice fit there. May not be starting for your team. You have to make a decision there. It'd be a tough one for Redick to walk right into, especially with him having the relationship he has with Chris Paul from playing with him. It's going to be interesting to navigate that. But we'll see. I think that is probably the most likely place for him at this point in his career. Not too many teams are just going to be like knocking on his door, even though he can still play. But are you blocking a young guy from playing somewhere else? We know how this thing goes. Like it's not, it's not so much about how much you can play. So the Lakers make the most sense for him, probably where he ends up. But the Lakers are going to have to take a big swing. They're going to have to take a risk somewhere. It can't just be minimum signings like they've done in the past, or like short 3-year deals here and there. No, it can't be. Like, you've got to take a risk. And that's why I wasn't against the Trae Young situation when it was brought up. I'm not against it. Even now, I'm not. You need to shake this thing up. You need guys that tilt the gravity of the floor on the floor with LeBron and AD, and lighten the load on LeBron James. You need that. You need that. So we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, I know somebody that should give him a call too, though. Phoenix, y'all should give him a call.
Yeah, they should.
I know it won't happen, but Bradley Beal at point, that ain't it. Maybe he comes back and suddenly averages 14 assists next year or something like that because he was injured. But I think CP, you give him a call, some limited minutes, rotating, helping that out. DeMar DeRozan, does he finally leave Chicago?
Is he a free agent?
I think so,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Or
He is. I think the Bulls are idiots. They're going to go after him and they should have just traded him. They're going to go after him. But DeMar is another sneaky candidate for the Lakers if he's a free agent that I would consider. I know he doesn't take threes and everything like that, but he has value in this league. He's still a great four-quarter performer. He's still an amazing player offensively as well, and he's worked on that three ball. It's not like he can't do it, right? And so I would like him in LA. I think it should have happened a while ago. But here we are. It is an opportunity, and he's not worse. DeMar is a player that a couple teams may go after. I think the Knicks, if they miss on OG, could make a run at him. It's a possibility, but I think the Lakers should really make a push for him. I really believe that. I think he'd be nice there. He'll have suitors because he's still such a great fourth quarter performer. There's a market for that. But I wouldn't mind him in LA either. And I know I'm predicting everyone in LA. But they have a lot of things they need to fix, and they're going to be in the mix for all these really good guys around the league right now as they kind of figure out where they're going to go and what the direction is. I'm thinking about other teams top of my head. I don't think he's fit for the Magic just because of the fact that they need shooting, and he doesn't bring that necessarily. You
think it'd be a nice fit in San Antonio?
That'd be interesting, and he loves Pop. His relationship with Pop is great. So yeah, guys want to go play with Wembanyama. So I think I think he'd rather play in LA. I think he's spoken openly about wanting to play in LA, but then the second place would be San Antonio. Yeah, because he loves Pop.
And I think he'll out of all players. Of course, you want a traditional point guard probably, but if you want somebody that's a veteran that knows how to get Wemby the ball and in the right positions,
he could do that.
DeMar could do that. When he was in San Antonio, then he averaged about like 8 or 9 assists in a couple years he was there. He had like career high in assists.
Yeah, he was doing. I mean, he had to. There wasn't much else as far as like point guard players on that team. So.
And they in the same situation.
I know. DeMar, I don't know. Maybe he replaces Paul George if he leaves in LA. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad choice. He's still going back to LA. I mean, so what? You can't go back to the Lakers who you watched growing up. But if you want to go back to LA, Clippers do have a need, and I think you'd fit pretty well over there. Either that or Dallas. I mean, if Dallas was able to convince him to maybe take a little less to, add some more playmaking beside Kyrie and Luka, I could see it. But then again, I'm just like, I don't really see too many big name free agents willingly going to Dallas. I'm sure it's nice to go for vacation, but I don't want to live there year round.
Yeah, Clippers, I think that would be a good fit too. And I think he'll be able to, in regards to the Dallas aspect, he'll get paid because what they want to pay Paul George is projected to be more than what DeMar will probably get. So go to Clippers, fill out that role, and it'll kind of be the same thing like with the Bulls because, Kawhi, we don't know what's going to happen with his knee. So it'll be the same thing. You'll be able to put up stats and whatnot. Couple more left. These more going down. Conversation really like role players. Some would say, they're starters, but they're not superstars or anything like that. Lauri Markkanen, turning back to Utah.
I think so. I think he's still got one more year, right? But
I think they say he could opt out.
I think he stays in Utah. I know they've been floating his name around in trade talks, and the way they see him might be a lot higher than what other teams see him. Kind of similar to like McCall in Brooklyn. Like they're willing to trade him if you offer them a lot, like a lot of picks, a lot of like Laurie's got a steal of a deal right now. He's not making that much. He's also, I think, in the last year of the deal, so he's up for another contract at some point. But getting that guy, I mean, he's really talented. I would swap him and Julius in a heartbeat. I feel like he's a better fit on the Knicks than, let's say, Julius. Even though, yeah, Julius is a rare power forward that does what he does, but he comes up small in too many big moments. I think putting Laurie next to Jalen Brunson and even OG, spacing the floor like that could be dangerous in the East. So
just about every team in the NBA will be interested in that guy. That's not a team that wouldn't want to take a swipe at Laurie. And I think he's probably I've seen those little rumors. I'm sure, Tone, you've seen them, and Miles, that he's the Lakers kind of like 1A scenario kind of guy. I've heard that. So it would be interesting if they could land him. I think that again, there's not a place you can plug that guy in where he wouldn't be a fit. I see what Miles did there too, sneaking in the Miles Bridges, the Mikal Bridges situation into that too. Even though he saw that report saying they're not trading him, but I guess we're gonna stick with it.
It's similar though. It's similar with the way they're running things. That you got to offer a lot. Like I'm sure that they're saying they're not going to trade Mikal, but if you offer them a lot of picks,
they've already been offered like 4 first rounders. I don't think picks is going to move them the needle. I think what it is with them is in fact, I think the situation is different simply because you're in Utah. You can't convince a star to come without trading for one. But you're in Brooklyn. You can probably convince a star to come without trading for one. That's the big difference. This is why the Nets have a different mindset about their situation with Mikal than Utah does about Laurie. I think it's that simple. So you're probably more open to trading Laurie than the Nets are to trade Mikal, and they've stood on that, saying they're not going to trade him. And I'm fine with that for this year. I'm totally fine with that. See how this year goes. See how 2025 summer goes, and we go from there. I'm totally okay with it though. Give fans something to watch. Trading them away for what? Cam Whitmore, some shit, he ain't like the Knicks fans tell me you're going to the Knicks. You need to stop telling me that. I don't want to hear that. Because you ain't giving me nothing that I can build around. Nothing. So
I mean, y'all got Sabrina and Brianna, Stewart over there in Brooklyn, so they got something to watch.
I don't know if you want to watch Brianna, but all right.
QB talk. Caleb Williams. A successful rookie season for Caleb Williams would be what? And is playoffs a must this rookie year with all that they put around them, all the moves that they made this offseason?
I don't think it's a must.
No.
I don't think it's a must. I mean, sure, they did put a lot of pieces around him. Keenan Allen, they still got DJ Moore, they drafted Odunze from Washington. So on paper, he should have no problem taking this team to the playoffs. But to put like a playoff almost mandate on him out the gate, I'm sure he's going to have his bumps and bruises. Not everybody just comes into the league firing on all cylinders. I mean, he's going to see a lot of different coverages and defenses out there during his rookie year. I think a successful season would be, 25, 27 touchdowns. He's going to throw some picks because he does take gambles. So 10, 12 picks and maybe 8 or 9 wins for this team as they build on that. Because it starts somewhere. This is the start. I mean, this team, they've got a good defense around him. They're building that on that side of the ball. They've got a good offense around him. I kind of want to just let him grow. Like, don't try to make him into John Elway or Patrick Mahomes right out the gate. Like, he's going to have his bumps and bruises. So be it. Year 2, he'll grow from that and be a star quarterback. But rookie year, I mean, it's Chicago. I don't really want to give them too much hope.
Right. Playoffs must have for Caleb Williams rookie season.
I think so. I think that's the pressure that's going to be on him. Number 1 overall pick. They talk about him being the generational talent. You see all the highlights and all that stuff. Bears fans have been starving for a great quarterback. If he threw more than 10 touchdowns this year, he'd have the touchdown record for a rookie. So, they considering the fact that they've never even had a great quarterback in their franchise history or in anything close, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him right away to produce. So I think that you're looking at a situation where, like they expect the playoffs from him. If you ask Chicago fans, if you polled them right now, and especially the way he walks around with the little bit of a cockiness and arrogance to him, and that's fine. He's really good, but prove it now at this level. And if you don't, just know it's not just going to be Chicago fans in your head. It's going to be everybody. It's going to be really hard. He has LeBron-like expectations on him. He does. And there's an expectation that he makes the playoffs for sure with everything they've surrounded him with. And considering the fact that they gave away Justin Fields, who the fans actually liked a little bit, and he didn't have that infrastructure around him. They didn't surround him with all that talent. They surrounded you with all that talent, and they dumped him. So a lot of pressure on you to go to the playoffs. You have to go this year. I think obviously it doesn't ruin his career, but that's the expectation that people have for sure.
You think he actually does it?
I mean, I think really highly of him. I think he's really, really good. I think he could struggle, but a little bit. It'll be an adjustment for him taking the easy play over and over again. I do think we're gonna have to watch that happen. But I do think that ultimately he's so talented. I'm gonna bet on that, and I think he has a chance. I think he has a chance to make a playoff run and get those guys involved.
I do think he's got to figure out a way to make plays in the pocket. Because I think if we look at college, he did run out of the pocket a lot. And for every Patrick Mahomes, you have Zach Wilson who does that, and it doesn't work. I'm not saying that he's Zach Wilson. Don't get that twisted. But there's the highs and lows of getting out of the pocket and trying to make plays. Like you've got to be able to stand under center. If a play's not there, sure, Patrick Mahomes is the best at doing what he does, but he's one of one. I mean, everybody wanted to compare him immediately to Patrick Mahomes because what he's doing in the Pac-12, not on Sundays. So he's in for some bumps and bruises. But, I mean, the kid is talented. I mean, you don't win a Heisman. You don't do what you did in college unless you are really talented. So I'm rooting for him, but let's ease up on the playoffs and him just lighting the league on fire. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that often. For every quarterback, who came out and did it? What's his name? Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, his rookie year was incredible, and then he got hurt.
C.J. Stroud,
yeah. For every quarterback like that, you have QBs that struggle. I mean, Anthony Richardson saying that the league's not harder than college. He didn't light the league on fire either before he got hurt. And he has to learn that he's got to slide. So there's a lot of things that he's going to learn in year one that he'll take with him for the rest of his career. So let's let it happen.
We'll break it down further. It's a whole lot of summertime left. We'll break down each team, go through the schedule, game by game, predict, and we'll see where we're not even looking at the schedule. We'll look at the schedule and maybe we'll be like, nah, the Bears ain't making the playoffs. Or we could look at it and be like, Caleb might be able to get it done. We will check it out at one point. Make sure you subscribe, it'll be up there so you know when it drops. In and off the show, of course, we always end off with some games, some trivia, hot takes, all that good stuff. Rank these finals teams. The most recent, 2024 Boston Celtics, 2023 Nuggets, the 2019 Raptors, and the 2021 Bucks. Rank them from best to worst.
I mean,
I feel like Nuggets might be one. Because you said what? This year's Celtics, last year's Nuggets, Raptors.
2019 Raptors and Giannis Bucks.
I'm gonna rank the Bucks that won because they had the hardest opponent out of all the teams we've named, and it was a harder fought finals and a more formidable foe in the finals than any of the other teams. So everybody else, to heck with them. I probably put I'll probably put 2019 Warrior, 2019
Raptors.
Raptors in at second because of the fact that at least they beat the Warriors. Even though KD got hurt, that Warriors team without him was still pretty damn good, still a formidable foe. I think it was like what, a 6-game series? Is that what it was? So yeah, another formidable foe, respectable finals. Everything else you just named, hogwash, nonsense. These other teams. So I'd probably go with that because they didn't beat anyone amazing in those finals. You know what I mean? That's just what I mean. Like, so you're going off that. That's what I would say.
That's fair.
Next batch. 2016 Cavs, the 2017 Warriors, the 01 Lakers, and the 96 Bulls. That's the 72-10 Bulls.
What did he say? What was it again?
2016 Cavs, the 2017 Warriors, the 2001 Lakers, and the 96 Bulls, the 72-10 Bulls.
I'm going 2016 Cavs first because they won the hardest finals ever. That was the hardest championship to win of all time. There's never been a more impressive championship won in the NBA than that championship right there that the Cavs won. Coming back down from 3-1 against the greatest team ever assembled, and that won the record 73 games. That was ridiculous. So I'm putting them at 1. And then you put your Bulls in there 2, and you get your Lakers in there who ran through the league with ease. I might even go Lakers at 2, honestly, to be honest, because they ran through the league with ease. And then put that Bulls team at 3, and go from there. But I got to go Cavs at 1 because of it was easily the most impressive accomplishment, potentially in pro sports. That was incredible what they did that year, coming down 3-1.
Miles, what's your ranking?
Because we're doing like best finals, best run or like best team.
The best finals team. Yeah, the best that whole run for them to get to the finals and actually winning it. Best to worst.
Yeah, I'd say Celtics. Jeez. I'll say Cavs. Because honestly, like you said, they won, and then they had to beat the 73-9 Warriors in the finals after being down 3-1. I'll have them at 1. I'll put the Lakers at 2, just because, they lost 1 game in that finals run, and that was, Ty Lue getting stepped over like I don't know. But what were the other 2? It was Bulls and
2017 Warriors.
I might put the Warriors just because it's like that team, granted, like they're adding Kevin Durant to that incredible team from the year before. Like that team is basically unstoppable. Like you've got a 7-footer who can shoot threes. You've got Steph Curry. You got Klay Thompson making that finals run and dominating on the way there. It's crazy to put the Bulls last in this scenario, but
end off the show with this. I'm gonna give you 2 players, right?
Yeah.
You tell me who you want for the next 5 years. CJ Stroud, Dak Prescott.
I would say CJ Stroud. I think already in 1 year he's shown me a little more than Dak has in his career, playoff-wise too, because he did win a game in the playoffs. And as a young quarterback like that, to show no fear, I'm taking CJ Stroud.
Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts?
Honestly, I'm going to say Jalen Hurts. I think he's shown it. Like, that's the thing. Lamar has come up small in some of the biggest moments. And sure, if Greg was on here right now, he would say Jalen Hurts was awful last year. Which, sure. But that is such a loaded topic. That's why we never get into it, because we could just talk about that for 20 minutes, because there's so many factors in why he didn't play well last year. But if we're going off of the tape of growth from the year before, where he led that team, he was an MVP. He would have been the MVP if he doesn't get hurt. And then he was basically the best player in the Super Bowl. I mean, people kind of gloss over that. Like on the biggest stage, he went toe to toe with what people might say the GOAT in the game right now. So, I mean, I'm taking Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's more poised in the pocket, and I think he prefers to throw it more than Lamar. I mean, granted, he has better weapons, so I won't take that from Lamar. But Jalen Hurts he's a really good quarterback. I think even this year he'll show with Saquon there, he'll show that he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, like he did the year before. That's why I'm like, sure, my sister works for the Eagles, but I'm not a homer. Like, I'm Jets through and through. But I'm honest. Like, Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Every team in the NFL would take him if all things were considered that he was available. But
speaking of one of his weapons, A.J. Brown or Jamar Chase for the next 5 years?
A.J. Brown or Jamar Chase? Jamar Chase. I mean,
well, somebody's going to be happy when they see this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was anticipating if I said A.J. Brown, Chris was going to jump into the stream and be like, yo, you better take that back. Just because, like, sure, A.J. Brown is a star. He's a stud. He's probably top 4 receiver in the league right now. But Jamar Chase he's been doing this since he came into the league. I think he's next to Tyreek Hill, probably the most gifted receiver that we got. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Justin Jefferson, but speed-wise, Jamar Chase is probably top 2 next to Tyreek Hill. And teams really have to game plan for him. I mean, I think he still had, 1,000 yards this year with Michael Scott throwing him the ball for half the year. So, I mean, I got to give him credit where credit's due.
Last one before we end off this episode. This one will hit home. Puka Nacua or Garrett Wilson for the next 5 years?
Oof. Like I said in the last part, I'm not a homer, but I'm going Garrett Wilson. Like, that kid is super talented. Like, you can't tell me that with better quarterback play, he's not in the conversation for a top 5 receiver right now. Because he's doing it with basically Zach Wilson for 2 years, and he put up at least 80 catches and at least 1,000 yards. Like, nobody else is able to do that. Nobody's going to do that with terrible QB play, a QB that's gun shy and clearly got some ghosts over his shoulders. So I think Matthew Stafford is an incredible quarterback. Puka Nacua also benefited from Cooper Kupp being injured for most of the year, so he was able to get force-fed a lot of the year. But I'm not taking away from it. He had an incredible rookie season. He's going to be great. We'll see what it's like with Cooper Kupp back, because I still think down the stretch Cooper Kupp wasn't Cooper Kupp that we're used to and we've become accustomed to seeing being the player that he is. And then Garrett Wilson, I mean, you're going to see. Everybody's going to see this year. Like, I can't wait till September when we actually have real football to talk about and not hypotheticals, because Garrett Wilson with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we saw it in preseason. They have a chemistry I'm not going to say it's like him and Devontae Adams, because that was different. But this one is going to be special. It could be – we might see him putting up like 1,600 yards next year. Easy.
Hey, it all depends on if A-Rod's going to be healthy all year. And then when you look on the flip side, that might be scary. That might be one of the best wide receiver duos right there. A healthy Cooper Kupp with what we saw from Puka last year too. I think that's something to watch out. We'll have an episode where we rank the best wide receiver tandems and duos before the season starts. That'll be one of these episodes for sure. But y'all know the vibes. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace. We need to put a stop time on it.